Finding percents with proportions is what we're going to look at for today. So the first thing I want to look at is an eye chart. So with each one of these problems we are going to make an eye chart, and every time we make the eye chart we're going to have this 100 down in the bottom right hand corner is always going to be there because percentage is always written over 100. So with that, we have our whole, which is just like the 100%. Percent is always written over 100. Our whole is the whole thing, just like 100% is always 100%. So if I'm going to put this example into an eye chart, I have my 100% that I'm going to write down here. And then the other thing that I know then would be the 84%, so I'm going to put that on top. And then the 960. 960, is that my part or is that my whole? That's what I'm looking for. So that 960, is it part of something or is it the whole thing is out of 960? So it's actually out of 960, so my whole is 960, which then means the top part would be my x. So then I would just set this up as a proportion. Okay, and like we do any other proportion, how would we solve for that? Hopefully you said cross multiply. So when I cross multiply, okay, so I have 100x is equal to 960 times 84. When I multiply that, I end up with 100x. Whoops, went too fast. 100x is equal to 80,640. Then, in order to get x by itself, I have to divide both sides by 100. When I divide by 100, I come up with x is equal to 806 and 4/10. Alright, let's look at a few more examples here just to make sure that we understand how to set this up. So, if I'm going to make my eye chart here for 63% of 95, the first thing that I know is I know my 100 needs to go down here in the bottom right hand corner because the percentage is always out of 100. Okay, well then since my percentage is given to me, that's an easy one to know where that goes. So let's put 63 up there. And then the bottom left hand corner, let's put 95 because 95 is our whole. It is out of everything. It's out of 95. So, and if I look at my percentage just kind of to give myself a good idea of where my answer should be, is 63%. Well, that's less than 100, so I know my answer needs to be less than 95 in order for it to be at least reasonable with where it could be at. Okay, so let's just take a look at setting this up. So I know my x is up here on the top, so if I set up this proportion, I'm going to have x over 95 is equal to 63 over 100. Okay, well, my next step from here is going to be to cross multiply. So I want to make sure I do my cross multiplication. Okay, so when I do my cross multiplication, I end up with 100x is equal to 63 times 95. Well, then I'm going to multiply the 63 times 95, and I get 5,985. I want to divide both sides by 100, and then when I do that, my quick mental division is because I'm dividing by 100, I'm just going to move my decimal over 2 places to the left. So that's going to give me x is equal to 59 and 85 hundredths. Okay. So now, why don't you go ahead and set up the next two problems and see if you can get those set up properly. And we'll work through those. So I'm going to erase my eye chart, and again, I always know my 100%, so that's going to go in the bottom right hand corner. I have 11%, so I'm going to put that above my percentage. And then my 18, again, is that my part or is that my whole? Well, if it's out of 18, I'm looking at that is my whole, so it's out of 18. So that leaves the top as my x. Okay, again, a little bit of mental math to just make sure that we're doing this right. 11% out of 100, so 11 out of 100, pretty small, so I should have a pretty small number compared to my 18. So, for example, if I got 9 to be my x value, well, 9 would be 50%. That would not be close to my 18, which needs to be a lot less than that based off of my percentage here. Alright, so if I'm going to set this up, I have x over 18 is going to equal 11 over 100. Okay, again, what would we do from this step? Cross multiply. So we do our cross multiplication. So I end up with 100x is equal to 18 times 11. So I have 100x is equal to 18 times 11 comes out to be 198. And then I have to divide both sides by 100. Again, doing my mental math, I come out to move the decimal 2 places, 1 and 98 hundredths. Okay. Again, if you look at my answer being reasonable, 11% compared to 10 out of 100, pretty small. And then I have my 18, 1 and 98 hundredths is not very big or very close to the 18. So there's a good distance there, so I think my answer is very reasonable. Okay, let's look at the last example then. Okay, I'm just going to leave my 100 there this time because 100 is always going to kind of remain down there in the bottom right hand corner. Okay, so again, I know my percentage, 127%. So that's going to go over 100. And then my 35, is that my part or is that my whole? Well, that's my whole. So again, that's going to go down in the bottom left-hand corner, and my x goes above that. If I'm looking at my mental math, the 127 is greater than 100, so that means my x value needs to be greater than 35 in order for my answer to be reasonable. So if I set this up, x over 35 is equal to 127 over 100. Okay? Again, to solve it, just going to cross multiply. So 100x is equal to 35 times 127. Okay, so when I multiply that out, I come up with 4,445. Now I want to divide both sides by 100. Okay, and again, if I want to do my mental math for dividing that out, I come up with x is equal to, move my decimal over 2 places from the right to the left, 44 and 45 hundredths. Alright, here's what I would like you to do. I'd like you to solve these 3 problems. Please pause the video so that you can solve the problems and check to see how you do. Alright, welcome back. Let's check your answers, see how you did on solving those. So on the first one, I want to make my eye chart. So I know my 100 is down the bottom. Okay, and I know it's out of 230. So I set up my proportion. X over 230 is equal to 85 over 100. Then cross multiply, so I have 100x is equal to 230 times 85, which then 230 times 85 is going to give me 19,550. Divide both sides by 100 to give me an answer of 195 and 5/10. Okay, hopefully you got that answer. Let's take a look at the second one. I want to make my eye chart. So I have my x value is still on the top, and my 100 is in the bottom right hand corner. 6 3/10%, and then my whole is 2,525. 20. So again, I want to set up this proportion. So when I set up my proportion, I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to have 100x is equal to 6 3/10 times 2,520, which when I multiply that out gives me 15,876. Divide both sides by 100 to give me an answer of 158 76/100. Again, you can do your basic mental math with that. Let's look at the last example. So I make my eye chart. I know my 100. I know 46%, so 46 is going to go there. My 15 is my whole once again. So I set up my proportion. X over 15 is equal to 46 over 100. So I have 100x is equal to 15 times 46. I'm going to take 100x is equal to 690 divided by 100. Gives me 6 9/10. Now, if at any point in time you need to go back and pause the video to check your work, to match up your work, to make sure that your answer comes the same, please feel free to do so. Alright, let's look at the last 3 problems that we're going to solve for today in today's video. At this point in time, I would like you to write down the Yukon Huskies on the right-hand corner, upper right-hand corner of your notepaper. Alright, so let's set this problem up. So if I'm going to set this up, again, I have my 100% goes on the bottom. Now, I have my 40%. Now here's where it gets a little bit different. 45 is 40% of what number? That 45 is, that means that it's part of my whole. It is not my whole, it is my part. So therefore it's going to go on top. So that's going to make my x down on the bottom. I'm still going to set up my proportion the same way as I would before. 45 over x is equal to 40 over 100. Cross multiply, set it up. 45 times 100 is equal to 40x. Multiply that. 4,500 is equal to 40x, and divide both sides by 40, and that's going to give me an x equals 112 5/10. Okay? So now, if we look at the next question, 16 is 25% of what number? Okay? So if you were to set this up, how exactly would you set it up? Okay, well, you'd have your 100% is in the bottom right-hand corner. Your 25 is above that because it's 25%. But then my 16 is 25% of what number? Again, it is a part of something, so therefore that is my part, and my whole is down in the bottom, which is an x. So set up my proportion. 16 over x is equal to 25 over 100. And again, I'm going to cross multiply. So I'm going to have 16 times 100 is equal to 25x. Okay. So then I'm going to divide both sides by 25. And I'm going to come up with an answer of x equals 64. Okay. So let's look at the third example. Try and do this one on your own. 20 is 5% of what number? So again, I always know my 100. That's going to be down in the bottom right-hand corner. Okay? And then I know my 5%. So I'm going to put my 5% up on top. Okay? That 20, what is the 20? 20 is 5%. 20 is 5%. Well, that is a part of a number. So since it's part of a number, it's going to go on the top. So 20 over x. Set up my proportion, and then I'm going to cross multiply. So I cross multiply, and then I am going to end up dividing by 5 because that's with my x, and it's going to give me x is equal to 400. If at any point in time you don't understand something, please go back and pause the video. And pause the video anytime that it's working out so that you can make sure that you understand all the steps that are happening. Thanks for watching the video. Hopefully this is helpful for you.